Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm Andrew Merkel, Editorial Director of Art Week Tokyo. As Stephanie said, this talk is organized as a collaboration between Art Basel and Art Week Tokyo. Art Week Tokyo was launched in 2021 with a soft launch edition and is now entering its fourth full edition this year. It's a citywide initiative connecting more than 50 of the top art spaces in Tokyo, museums, galleries, and institutions together through 5 days of coordinated programming, special exhibitions, and talk platforms. And so the idea with this talk is to bring some of that energy from Tokyo to Hong Kong and share it with you here. And it's very special for me to be doing this talk with Aki and Koki. I've known both of them for many years. I first met Aki at the Yokohama Triennale in 2008. And Koki and I go back to New York in 2004 when you were there on a Location 1 residency. But of course, both Aki and Koki also have many friends and colleagues throughout the Asia-Pacific. So it's really meaningful to do this talk in Hong Kong as an extension of Art Week Tokyo here, where a lot of other people, a lot of friends and colleagues can also join us. And just to briefly, again, introduce our speakers, I think both of you have been really inspiring to many people over the years for the way you have pioneered expanded approaches to art making, through multimedia works that combine humor and playfulness with critical reflection. Aki Sasamoto is based in New York and is the head of the sculpture department at the Yale School of Art in New Haven. And her performance installation practice comprises improvised spoken narratives that develop through bodily actions in dialogue with modified objects that she's arranged in the performance space. A lot of you may have seen her work at the Venice Biennale in 2022. She's also appeared in major exhibitions such as the Kochi Muziris Biennale and the Gwangju Biennale. Koki Tanaka is based in Kyoto and teaches multimedia art at Kyoto City University of the Arts. And he's known for making video installations in which he asks participants to engage in absurdist collaborations, such as having 5 potters make a pot together at once. And he's since developed his practice to use workshop formats to consider different possibilities for being together as communities and as societies. Koki Tanaka had a solo show at the Japan Pavilion at the Venice Biennale in 2013. And he was also in sculpture projects Munster and exhibitions such as the Biennale de Sao Paulo. Both artists are going to be recognized with important solo exhibitions this year. Aki is currently preparing a solo show or a mid-career survey at the Museum of Contemporary Art Tokyo, which opens in August. And Koki is working on a solo show at UCCA Beijing, which opens in September. So, I think the idea with today's talk is to kind of think about how both of you, as artists who have developed these expanded practices, that maybe even make us question what or where the work itself is. How both of you are kind of approaching the idea of the retrospective format. And maybe we could just start off by, asking that very question. What does it mean to do a retrospective for you? Aki, do you want to start?
So I was thinking about retrospective as like in the institution space that seems to have a different purpose by that venue. But for me, being retroactive or retrospective is a part of the behavior in making art. I sometimes talk about episode from the childhood or things that happened to me in the recent past. So it's already when I'm performing, I'm already looking back in the past. And similarly, when I'm making object, it's also looking at the story that's already written in the material object. So retrospective is inherently in my work. So that's kind of where I try to position myself, and I'm also putting together the exhibition.
Yeah, for me, the retrospective idea is the, of course, like when you become like a mid-career artist, you really wanted to have like a mid-career survey. And I actually really wanted to have it at some point, but no one really asked me to do it. So then I realized that, okay, let's rethink about this retrospective or mid-career survey in a different way. I gave a talk maybe like 2 years ago online at the Tokyo University about how to rethink about this retrospective practice. Yeah, like when you get the chance to have the like large museum retrospective show, you have one space. One museum. But instead of having a retrospective show in one space, one museum, if I think about like, let's say, like a time-based way of thinking about the retrospective show in like different places, kind of like a series of different shows, maybe different talks or different events throughout the like 1 year or maybe 2 years. So then it become like a time-based retrospective practice. And this year somehow like I didn't expect, but this year for me it's like a retrospective year. Like I'm having different shows. Of course, UCCA one is the biggest one, but I have small shows, museum collection shows, to showing my past works, like random past works here and there in a different context. So somehow this year I'm really looking back my past works and also showing it.
I find it funny that you're looking at the work retrospectively, and I think I already have that in the way I work. That part is interesting because maybe that is because we both have what you call expanded practice. So if something is multidimensional, it's very hard to just like present flat that flat field with the time is like a kind of line. But if you are trying to move a volume across the time, it cannot be linear or something along that line. That it's you have to have a multiple way of presenting or multiple times to visit because the space of retrospection is much more complex when the work is not flat.
Yeah, I mean, Aki, you have the installation and you have the performance, and both sort of exist in their own right, but at the same time, one produces the other, one generates the other. So I think, trying to imagine what might happen in your show in Tokyo, where there's, it's sort of more of a classical mid-career survey format, where there's going to be several bodies of work together or over the past 20 years of your career. It's interesting to think about how people will encounter all those works together in a shared space rather than, I think, seeing a solo project and having that kind of immersive experience.
Yeah, again, I think it's like the spatially, it's very different. Like when you use the word expansive, I realized that, like it is different from extensive. So I think something about the way each piece intersect with each other is like the way the wave meet. It's not like collision, right? It just kind of, once it collides, it also creates a different pattern. So I imagine like if somebody come to that kind of show, it is going to be hard to spot the starting point. And I'm looking forward to that way of organizing like my relationship to exhibition too, that it's like, I would like to perform this work or that work, like jumping for different place, because you could potentially start from anywhere, like if we have multiple exhibitions and call that as a group retrospective, it's very different from chronological way of thinking about it, right?
So the work is also like, the work is changing with each presentation, and it's adapting with each presentation. And Koki, you mentioned this idea of having a kind of dispersed retrospective where it's not in a single space, but it's kind of spread out across different venues that are maybe coincidental in time. And you use the word multiverse to talk about that the other day. So, I think maybe, both of you are kind of working towards a multiverse style, approach of putting your works together.
I also don't believe that, let's say, like, if I have like one installation to make like sort of like a manual to make the installation again the same exact installation. So I think that the work should be somehow adjust, or at least like change a little bit according to this different space or different context. So I see all the installations are kind of like different variations. Even though like some of the museum bought it, I wanted to have also, I also wanted to give them like a different opportunities or different variations that they can choose, or they can even change a little bit. So that's the maybe only way the work itself somehow not only like fixed. So it's kind of like strangely talk about this idea when we were in the art fair context, because people wanted to have the fixed work. But I think that maybe our way of working is kind of like how to reactivate the past work into the different contexts or different spaces. So variations, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, and another artist that I've worked with closely as a translator, Kishio Suga, who's from the Monoha phenomenon of the late 1960s, talks about finding the horizontal logic in the vertical in one of his texts. And I think there's this nice idea that, he makes these spatial installations of found objects like stones and glass panels and 2x4s. And there's this idea that, every time he represents that installation, it's kind of also changing. So the sculpture or the work is a score that he recreates using slightly different materials under slightly different conditions. But I think this notion of finding the horizontal logic in the vertical that he talks about with his work is it's a really compelling way to think about the different phases that a work can occupy. So it could be a video installation, it could also be a performance. Koki, you actually, with your works, you make a single-channel screening version and a multi-channel installation version each time. So I think these are interesting ways of maybe deconstructing binary logics about where a work starts and ends, or how a work should be always identical to itself.
Also, earlier I was thinking about how installation works, or perhaps video installation too, is because architectural space changes or time changes, so I have to make the installation like nomadic, so they could really move and then adjust to the different location. So the edge of the work is very porous, and things could fall out of it, that boundary, or things could be introduced to it. And then materially, it could be the patina that happens on the metal, but it could also be conceptually, just because I perform at a different age, I would react differently to the same object I am working with. So that's that aspect contributes to that expandedness, because it's just, but it also shrinking is another way to think about it, because the more you perform or the more you present, it does also have a kind of a gravitational force towards the center. Certain things get repeated. So it's also a practice of finding the center at the same time. The porousness works both ways, right? It's how I think.
Yeah, I mean, so you were saying that you map out your performances in your head, but you don't script them, and then a lot of the times the installation is kind of like the score, and you're reading the score as you perform. But you also mentioned that your recent show at Parasite in Hong Kong last year was also a bit of a turning point for you in maybe approaching the objects more as an instrument rather than a score. Could you maybe talk a bit about that?
It's really kind of like sometimes I enter from object and sometimes I enter from body. So it could go either way, and it's usually a mixture of it. And then when things are a little more towards object, I think it has something to do with like either hormonal balance or just like a physical condition, like when I have ulcer or when I'm not feeling adrenaline, probably I am more receptive to objecthood. And then when I have much more aggression in me, I start with body. So I think the last few years I had a lot more conversation with object, but that's just by chance. And then I don't know, for you, your practice is also changing, and it's like external thing, like environment. If I'm working with such a porous framework, that kind of thing really affects the way I start project too. So like, it's not like I change and then now I'm working with the object, like the fish that's moving, but it's more like that's where I am with this environment and the time now.
Right. Koki, a lot of your recent works have been based on workshops where you bring together, participants for several days of different activities, and you film it and then edit it into a work. But I'm wondering, in the same way that maybe Aki dialogues with objects and both operates on the objects and receives, feedback from the objects. Like, how do you approach the idea of the workshop and integrating different people into your practice?
Okay. Should I talk about that now, maybe? Because you mentioned about the single-channel film and the multimedia, multi-channel video installation. Maybe I can just quickly talk about this, because to then jump into this workshop idea, because it was not let's say it's not the philosophical background or any like artistic idea behind it. Actually, it was more like a need that because I have one budget to produce one video installation. And I thought that maybe I can some way to use this opportunity to make something different. Because if I only go for like a art context, maybe I could meet something something difficult to continue. So I thought that maybe I can go or more jump into like a film festival. So then I realized that maybe I can make the video installation first, then make into the film. So then I can go both ways, like film festival and art context. And somehow it works very well before the Corona time, because it gives the audience different way to looking at my work. I don't know what the work actually is, but when you go to the multi-channel video installation, we discussed earlier today, but so as an audience, you just go into the installation as the kind of like editor to see the different elements from the film or objects. So you're the kind of like a key person to understand or navigate by yourself to see the exhibition itself as a work. But for the single channel, I'm the editor to navigate the entire footage, that how audience see it. So it's like a different versions of the looking at the work, I think. So this is kind of like it started from the needs, but at the end it become more like one of the way of understanding what the work really is. So the variation of the installation is also related to this idea, like how we looking at the, like where is the work, or what's the really contents of the work, or something like that. So then this somehow related to the workshop idea also, because I had a lecture about the workshop at some point that I kind of like divide a two way of looking at the workshop. So workshop 1 or workshop A is the way like if you participate at some workshop in the museum, like a painting workshop or I don't know, or sculpture workshop or whatever, artists give you like a certain goal that you run certain skills to get that skill back home or something like that. So it's like, let's say there is a certain place you are like achieving. But there is another way to looking at the workshop. So workshop B is the way artists put you in the really difficult situation to sharing sort of like uncertainty. Like you don't know what the workshop really is, or you don't know what the contents or what the like a clear goal or something like that. And actually one of the way I'm doing for the workshop, like one of the piece like showing this slide, like 5 pianists or 5 potters making the one music or one pottery together. I asked them to do like work together, but not let's say like a clear goal. Like they just has to negotiate each other or understanding each other's differences to reach out by themselves. So they were they were showing uncertainty. So I just make the framework, and they were just try to solve the problem or something. So for me, the workshop is not really maybe a workshop. I don't know how to call it. So I just call it as a workshop. But when you participate in the workshop, you actually there is nothing to get or nothing to. I don't know, like there is no skill you get or something.
I guess workshop is also a noun and then a verb, right? And then the workshop is like kind of like a studio. Like before that, the idea the studio artist came. Workshop is also a place of making, and then it is really spatial and then also interrelational. And maybe in your case, you were doing workshop with the people, multiple people, and then making it clear that it is not one person. It's like kind of like a multiple thing, and then it's about finding out that relation. And it also sounds like you and your workshop people and a thing, but also your relationship to like 2 different way of presenting is also trying to figure out what the work will look like live. So it doesn't seem like if it's like you could present a workshop or you could present a restaurant and call it your artwork. And then it feels like it's very much like, again, I go back to like the volume of space we are looking at.
But Aki, I mean, your works, I think also have an audience in them. And so I think in contrast to a painting or something where, the audience would come and go, when you do the performance, there's an actual audience in the space and you're kind of interacting with them to some extent, or the performance is maybe evolving in some way in response to spontaneous encounters with the audience. So how do you, is that also a workshop type space, or is that a different
I think so, but it's kind of like a different weather. It's still not necessarily the key element of the thing I'm trying to relate. So audience is important as a presence, but I don't know if that is affecting this like porousness or changeability of the work. And I wonder what I'm really confronted by when I'm in the work is either the object or the past myself who performed a while ago, or within the context of the work. That's what I'm trying to figure out, what the interrelationality amongst, I think. But audience is like a good, just a concept of having an audience is a good way to like a kind of gift wrap the fact that I am interested in that relational situation, I think. So I'm just kind of quoting the theatrical setup to make sure that I am paying attention to that like changing nature of relationship.
You were saying that when you teach, you also do like, you kind of compose your classes with activities and things like that. Has your teaching practice been informed by your performance practice or vice versa?
Yes. And I think academic situation is really fast. So more than like my neighbor, like the collectively students and colleagues like bring so much more movements. They put more energy, so it's much faster. So you could practice that kind of relating as like a sports. So almost like a sports.
Yeah.
So that's like one good thing. And also I am interested in not so much individual students, but I'm interested in characters that I can detect when I just like thin my eyes and like, I can recognize this tendency, and I like doing that game. So again, maybe kind of like audience, like I'm not really focusing on the audience and me or student and me, but like just like the whole activity as a pattern is interesting. So like very similar to I think my the what I enjoy in teaching space is like similar to what I enjoy in art making. When the ego kind of just like doesn't matter.
Koki, you said you've mentioned several times to me that you had a really formative experience doing a workshop style art project with Pavel Altamer, was it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe which was. I mean, I think there's like more of a sadistic element in the way that Pavel Altamer set up his scenario that you participated in. But I wonder if there's also a connection between that and your current workshop approach.
Okay. So yeah. I participated the Pavel Altama's workshop in I think 2006 or maybe 2005, 2006. And it was like I was in Paris as a young artist, and there was an opportunity to participate in Pavel's workshop. But in the very beginning, he said that because he was invited by Pompidou to have a solo show at one space in Pompidou, and he gave us the idea that we can have a group show there. And this is like a good, let's say, like opportunity for the young artists to do a group show at the Pompidou Center. But then he said that, okay, but we are going to Porosity in middle of nowhere in the Poland, like a forest, for 2 weeks to make some work or something like that. But once we are set up the place, there is like there is no shop. Like we have to walk to the one kiosk by 30 minutes or something. So, and even though even there is no toilet or something, we have to first we have to make the toilet by ourselves.
Nomadic.
Yeah. So then, like some of the artists, some of the other participant artists, like they were really wanting to make some work because it's for the Pompidou. But then he just to create a sort of like a crazy, maybe it's not really a workshop, but we just built like a Indian sauna that like we all naked and inside the like or we just dig our graveyard or something to spend one night or something like that. So it's not really about the making work, but he just suggests us to forget to make work or something like that. So it's very strange workshop that I go through. But at some point I realized that okay, maybe just he's probably suggesting us to forget about our career as an artist, or so we just experience things. So I guess that experience for me it's kind of like around time I didn't make any work related to workshop style or whatever, but somehow it's coming back to me when I don't know, like 5 years, 6 years later. So then, I think probably keep doing the similar sort of like a spirit from Pavel that I carry.
I find it, now I'm like tying back again spatially, that it's like, that it's very important to feel lost, both as a maker, but maybe hopefully for viewer too. And I was, we had a coffee this morning, and then we were talking about like how much I had to these days read this mystery series for my 6 years old. And I'm like, it's like Boxcar Children or something. It's like, there's like 105 series. But it's a mystery story, and having like a piece of, like a one piece at the beginning introduced, and then that seems like very good. Like I enjoy, and then the kid is enjoying that like sense of lost, and or wanting to figure out, and then not being introduced for the whole thing immediately is like really exciting narrative for this 6 years old. And like I feel like maybe this sense of lost or forgetting is like a generative space, at least for now.
And I actually realized also that because I started the teaching job last year, and I thought that if I teach at art school, I have to give them like knowledge or experience or something like that. So I gave them a lot of like different input from not only from art, but from like, I don't know, like a sociology or anthropology or philosophy. But then after one year, then there is nothing. Like it's not really reach them. So they don't really care about what I was saying or what I bring other like experts or something. So then like I think maybe yesterday I somehow realized that because when I do this workshop style, like I say, it's more like the getting lost or sharing the uncertainty. So which is opposite way that I did last year for my students. So instead of like giving them some input, maybe I should use this use my practice into my education process, maybe like with the students, like not giving them just the informations or knowledge, but maybe creating a certain space that we somehow share something unknown.
Yeah, I guess like Andrew, you started by asking us about retrospective, but I always think that I cannot really get there. But what I want to accomplish as an educator is to be aware that education happens retroactively, and most of the hard lesson is like has relationship with the long-term memory and not short-term memory. I was such a good student, like a Japanese good Asian student, that I was really good at tests. But as a short-term memory, so I could achieve high score by that. But it didn't really give me things like a way to survive or way to enjoy. But the long-term thing, like when something is like took a long time to suddenly make sense, I think that's I want that kind of education to happen, at least in higher education, because it's very hard to teach in a kid that, right?
Yeah, well, we were talking this morning also about this idea of how understanding comes through misunderstanding. And so maybe it's important with an artwork, instead of making something that closes like a trap where, you're kind of leading the viewer to a very specific conclusion, it's better to leave things open-ended, and then they might figure it out or they might not, but, yeah.
Okay. Like now I feel really confused because we are also doing retrospective perspective now to looking back our earlier conversation today. Mm-hmm. So we somehow revisit again and again our earlier, maybe better or best conversation we had. So, I think misunderstanding is also one of the point that we somehow share, maybe, because like when you see the artwork, like how you can actually understand, because of course you can just read the description or context that you understand the background or why artists made this, but like actual understanding is always missing, maybe, or even though even for the artist, the artist who made that piece, maybe he or she really don't understand maybe their work self, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a privileged position to be a maker and then look at your own work, because you are aware that the magnitude of misunderstanding. But it's very hard to measure that in other people or in teaching. So like it's just a hope that you are misunderstood in an impactful way, but it's hard to measure. So I think having a retrospective or like a pretending to do it is like it's again like a sports for me, like an exercise to think about how a misunderstanding works, or knowing that you cannot align yourself with the past self is like an easy way to notice.
There is one work that I produced in 2006 called Everything is Everything. And it was a collection to the Hiroshima Contemporary Museum. And I actually, they actually showed the piece time to time with the 300 different objects that are used for the film. And every time when I saw their version of installation by curators, I always hate it because it's not really the installation that I did or I wanted to have. But I don't know how to tell them that what is wrong or what is okay, because I also don't know what exactly, I don't know how to install the work in a way. So instead of just telling them that it's wrong or something, we had a conversation, and that became one of the piece. So we install together, and we just checked why this is not good or why this is okay, or this is good. So it's it's like a journey to understand how I install the work, or what installation that I'm really looking for. So then I realized that maybe this whole journey of 10 years or something, that a collection of different misunderstanding of the work, that's the foundation for us to understand each other at some point. Through this conversation that I documented with the curators. So then in the middle of the discussion, we realized that I didn't use any aesthetic point of view to put the objects together. So there is no aesthetic or there is no artistic. Just I put one after another. So it's against artistic practice or artistic or aesthetic practice in a way. So, but I didn't know why I wanted to do it 10 years ago, or maybe more than 10 years ago. So accumulation of this misunderstanding somehow the way to understand each other. And this is actually Haruki Murakami. Sorry about that, but we again revisit our earlier conversation that I also mentioned about the Haruki Murakami. That because he also, as a novelist, he also get the many feedback, but he thought that it's all misunderstanding. But because of this accumulation of the misunderstanding, that's the only way to understand. So that's he wrote. So I think. What he wrote about it is somehow kind of encourage us that we can keep misunderstanding, but that's the only way to understand things.
I think maybe both of us are very nerdy, so that we like to think about the mechanism or the collective data that show that we can actually see as a data, that misunderstanding. But then there goes some people who just comes and then apparently have a very intuitive way to just get it with just one little moment. And I don't like them, but I really get drawn to that type of people too. So I guess going back to exhibition too, sometimes it's not about getting every variation I can make with the same work, this kind of thing, that I could make a sculpture that works, and then also I make a performance about it, or I make a video about it and video around it, and they're all a byproduct of the same project, because I operate to within my workshop that I need to have a different reference point to seize the mechanism of misunderstanding. But then there are people who just I see somebody in my performance, or not even related to art, I would be sitting at the bar and then some people just can get me like that. Or get something about this, somebody can just say something profound, in one go. So that's also possible. I can't really. It's just like me, you. I don't know that we tend to workshop it, and because we don't have that those really cool guys thing.
You wanna? Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe like the idea of the retrospective, then is also about like letting go of the work too. No, it's kind of like preparing to let go. I think about like how I always, there are all these things in life where you have to entrust the creative act to somebody else. For example, when you go get a haircut, you have to say like, "This is what I'm thinking," and then the haircutter, the stylist executes it for you. And maybe that's also similar to the relationship between the artist and curator at some point. That like, you've got the work and you have to entrust it to somebody else and say like, "Here's what I'm thinking," and then you hope that they know how to, present the work in the best light, but they might not know how to present it in the best light, So.
I used to want to present everything in one work. So I was trying to make an it couldn't be just movement. It couldn't be just object, and then like it became like kind of like a I hate musical, but like it kind of became like a bit of a musical situation, like making sure that you get this love story with movement and fashion and then like singing and whatnot. But now I am more interested in letting go and then trying to think that like perhaps like a second of encounter could work, or at least having an opportunity to show a different way, something quick, something slow, something like holding hands together or like rejecting. And those like perhaps maybe something that I'm not there activating could also be profound for some audience. So that's kind of like different approach is interesting. I am like much more interested in letting go of full explanation. How can I make sure that I can omit a lot more? And it's very hard for talkative people like me. I talk so much when I'm teaching too, and I always regret at the end of the day, I talk too much.
Yeah, I think that the letting go idea is somehow related to my childcare situation, because my kids was born in 2020, so in the middle of the Corona time, and so like everything from Corona is somehow related to my childcare time. So I don't know how to distinguish these two moments. But once I have the kid, then it's like it consumed most of my time, right? Like you also had the same experience, and I think that at some point, like before having baby, I thought that I can use most of my time for like, I don't know, writing or work, but then it like such a precious time was never coming back. So I have a limited of time, and sometimes like even though like if I making some editing, like at some point I have to let it go, otherwise, yeah, I need to take care of kids. So it's like maybe it's an age thing, or I don't know, but I think that that's kind of like limited of time, also giving me the sort of like opportunity how I hand off something that I cannot do. And maybe this is also a good way to looking at the artistic practice, because like I don't know, like when I was young, I somehow hope that I can work with like many good creators or something like that. So I was really like sometimes pushy, sometimes like I don't know, greedy, really, I think. But right now I'm not really in that like a mode, of course, because we are we're getting old. So, but this is also a good way to, let's say, making work or producing or writing things, because it's like there is no artist who are like elderly artists that I can somehow, I mean, admire when they have kids and when they have really difficult time to dealing with it. So of course, there is many artists also dealing with that situation, but I don't know like anyone who somehow I can learn from them. So I have to do it by myself in a way. And this is somehow a good way to rethink about my practice, like entire practice, throughout the point of view of the child care. So, and it's more like a reality of the, I think, artists.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's when I'm female, but like it seems very horizontally connected. Mother, I think ultimate intergenerational, interrelational thing happens with the kid, because one aspect of it is that they're learning, and then I have to let go. But then sometimes, like completely different version happens that they know what I'm going through, and I don't know. They point out, you know. So, so I find that like ultimate, like huge vector to meet in the middle is very, very exciting. Yeah, and then letting go part, like the other day, the kid had like a little, like with wrong spelling, like had a writing letter that he had at school probably, like, and then came back and it says like, I love Dad because I want to be a fisherman like my dad. I love Dad. And then like the paper already ran out, and then at the end, like it's going sideways. It's like, also I like Mom because she doesn't give up. And then I realized like he doesn't love me. He doesn't want to be me because I don't give up. And I'm like, fuck. Like, so I'm still trying to let go more. And then it's like that kind of thing is so profound. Again, like just like a little thing, and then just like slice you quickly.
We have a little time for questions from the audience. If anyone wants to join the conversation, anything? Yes.
My name is Yukio Inoue, and I'm from Vancouver. Thank you for sharing. Your process is fascinating. And I wonder, because you're so deeply involved in the depth of process and capturing, I feel, a moment of time in your work, when it comes to having interested patrons and galleries and collectors being interested in capturing your work, how do you find that in regards to letting go of your pieces for sale?
I don't think that much letting go happens after I make something. And then I could go and then again, maybe if I represent it, like Koki said, or if I reperform it, I could have my own recalibration. So I'm not sure by having like the actual work moving as like any farewell, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not attached at all. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. But maybe if it's a good situation that I could revisit the work or have a like profound conversation with the person who end up with my work or whatever, that could be cool. So it's like it's maybe potentially more opportunity for misunderstanding than keeping it in my studio. Because I am kind of boring until I age enough, and then maybe I'm not old enough. I can't wait to become like totally delusional old lady, but it's going to take a long time. So maybe it's better if the work moves to the different location or, contribute to that movement.
Okay, so my case, I like I say about the this new film about the Everything is Everything that I created in 2006. So the museum actually acquired this newer conversation as a kind of like a extension or expand material for the work itself. So within this idea, so if I'm not die soon, I can do all the works I produced that collected into the museum or collectors that I can revisit again and again. And I can do it twice, 3 times, anytime. And I can make those works also for different past works. So within this idea, this is kind of like an invention that all the artists can do it. And if the collectors or museums or anyone who have the artist's work, they also wanted to have the newer layer, right? So new ideas to the past work. So within this system, I can be a billionaire maybe. I can make any addition, any extension ideas towards the different works that I created before.
And maybe the institutional collector hopefully is, I think they're not just having a relationship with one work. Hopefully they have like good reference points. So like a different artist or whatever, that's the fun of it. I just use my work or my friends as a different reference point, and then they just use, my work hopefully is just one of many things, like a new constellation, and that's interesting. It's just we're doing the same thing basically, but just I'm doing it in the workshop and as a maker, and then viewing is another kind of cosmology making, right? Hopefully.
I think that maybe the really generous thing about both your work is that one work generates a new work, as Koki is saying, and so rather than trying to fix the work in one place, in one identity, in one format, it keeps evolving in a really constructive way. And I think that's maybe something we can all take to heart, Yeah, as we, go through, looking at your work in these exhibitions. That's all the time we have for today. So thank you to Koki and Aki for sharing your ideas. Aki Sasamoto's Life Laboratory opens at the Museum of Contemporary Art Tokyo on August 23 and continues through November 24. You can also see her work here at the fair at Taki Ninagawa's booth 1C13. And Koki Tanaka's solo show at UCCA Beijing opens September 27 and continues through January 4 of next year. And his work is on view not far from Hong Kong at Mirrored Gardens in Guangzhou, if you can make it out there. And then Art Week Tokyo runs for 5 days from November 5 to November 9 this year. We hope to see you in Tokyo. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you to our interpreters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.